Hello, my name is Jane and I'm a humanist, which is a non-religious worldview. Shortly, I'm going to tell you the story, The Star Thrower, which is a favourite story of mine. And before I do that, I'm going to tell you about the man who wrote the story, whose name was Loren Eiseley. And you can see him there on the right with his cat. Now, Loren was a natural scientist, so he liked to investigate nature. He was also an anthropologist, so he liked to investigate humans, both in the past and present. And he was also a humanist, just like me. Now, I bought his book about 20 years ago, um, when I was discovering humanism myself, and I really enjoyed. It's actually an essay. The Star Thrower is actually an essay, but I'm going to tell you it as a short story. Now, Loren Eiseley, he had a great skill, I think, the first time I read it, in combining nature writing and science writing. He was a great storyteller, and he left not just scientific messages, but also other messages as well related to humans. Now, you might think that the story is about stars that you might find in the night sky. But the story's actually about a different kind of star, a star that you find in the ocean, a starfish. And I grew up by the sea when I was a very little girl, and I loved going in rock pools and loved if I ever got a glimpse of a starfish. One of my favourite ocean species. And I don't know if you know, but there are lots and lots of different starfish around the world. And perhaps you might like to have a look at these later and pick which one is your favourite. So let's start with the story, okay? So I want you to imagine that you're on a beach and a storm has happened the night before, and thousands of starfish have been washed up during a terrible storm. And along that beach, a young girl was walking. And when she came to each starfish, she would pick it up and throw it back into the ocean. People watched her with amusement. She had been doing this for quite some time when a man approached her and said, "Why are you doing this? Look at this beach. You can't save all these starfish. You can't even begin to make a difference." The girl seemed a little crushed, a little deflated. But after a few moments, she bent down, picked up another starfish, and hurled it as far as she could into the ocean. Then she looked up at the man and replied, "Well, I made a difference to that one." The man looked at the girl inquisitively and thought about what she had done and what she said. Inspired, he joined the little girl in throwing starfish back into the sea. Soon others on the beach joined in, and all the starfish were saved. So I really like that story, and you might be interested to know I like it because it's a scientific story. This is actually a natural phenomenon that happens sometimes. Starfish get washed up on the beach, hundreds and thousands of them. And so it's quite rare, but it does happen. And it happened a few months ago in Scotland. And here's a picture here. And I remember when I read about this in the news, I wondered if any children were walking on the beach and they'd heard about the starfish story. But I also like this story because there's some science to it. There's some scientific truth to it. It is something that happens in nature. It shows us about the interconnectedness of nature. But as a humanist, there's also a deeper message about kindness to other living things and to each other. And I think the big message for me as a humanist is that even small acts of kindness can make a difference. Perhaps you might like to reflect on what the story means to you.